Dan Wood say Ali Blade dead on arrival. There's only one blade, and there will always going to be one blade. But the support for Wesley Snipes continues to grow, and eventually it will be at a level to a point to they ain't gonna be able to return. Now here come Mike right here. What's going on, Mike?
Hey, brother, how you guys doing?
How you
Hey,
doing? How you doing, Mike?
okay.
Hey, so I discovered your content maybe a few days ago. You have another channel, right?
Yeah, I have another one, 4K TV, and I also have a sports channel for my Saints and my Pelicans called New Orleans Sports Media.
Oh, okay, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I'm not sure which channel I originally discovered, but I think it was your Blade content, your MCU related content you did recently.
Yeah, that was this one.
Yeah, man, and I definitely saw the poll and participated in it, and yeah, I had no idea that it reached those thousands of numbers of entries. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. Dude, the first day I put it up, it was only, what, 600. And believe it or not, I thought that's how high this was going to go. That's what I thought. Next thing you know, I take a shower later that day, pour my drink, you know what I'm saying, sit back, relax, and I look, it was at 1K. I said, oh, that's pretty interesting. Woke up the next morning, 2K. Now here it is, 3K, and it continues to rise. It continues to rise. The support is overwhelming, dude. Like, I would have never thought that this conversation will be a thing 3 weeks ago. I don't know about you, you know what I'm saying, T and Mike. I don't know, but I didn't think that this was going to be a conversation.
See, I kind of anticipated it. I'm also in media, and you have to realize that, Black folks, Black culture, we really set the trend. And even when Marshala got announced as Blade, we was like, oh, cool, they doing Blade again, but what's going on with Wesley? And it always didn't sit right with our community, the false rumors and them trying to demonize him and blacklist him and make him seem like he was some huge problem. They even came out with blog articles suggesting that he sexually assaulted Jessica Biel.
Right, all kind of trying to put dirt on that man's name. I addressed that too.
And that didn't happen because she spoke about that. That didn't happen.
Exactly. So if anybody hasn't seen it, there's a great Vlad TV interview that he does with Michael J. White, because Michael J. White is cool with Wesley Snipes, and they're over, at each other's house all the time and stuff. And Michael J. White was just speaking about the fact that they straight up try to steal his movie. Apparently, in the press leading up to the release of the movie of Blade 3, they were even doing posters where it would just have Ryan Reynolds or just have Jessica Biel and it'd say Blade on it. So, through marketing and other methods, they were literally trying to exclude him from his movie and take it away from him and give it to, these up and coming Caucasian actors, if we're just going to call a spade a spade. And most of the things that really made Blade successful were things that were embedded in our culture, whether it was his euphemisms, his mannerisms, the way he dressed, it was very, 90s centric. And even when we had that female, I forget her name, in the first Blade movie, she played a good role as, a leading co-star. We saw her,
right,
kicking ass and throwing down, and it wasn't on no, cheesy, what's her name? Charlize Theron, who's a skinny little 120-pound chick beating a grown man. No. It was actually believable.
Basically, it wasn't no agenda. It made sense with the story.
Yeah.
Well, but see, that's why they called it Blade Trinity. It was like we had Blade 2. You get to the third film, Trinity. It's like, oh, now it's about Blade and everybody else. It ain't about Blade. But it should have just been Blade 3.
And they made it silly. And the thing is, like, we just saw, with Blade 2, that he went up against the Blood Pack. Remember, it was a whole team that was meant to take him out. He took out the leader in 0.2 seconds. And he was like, y'all work for me. Your team,
nothing.
I'm Blade.
2 years.
Yeah.
Come on.
Right, man. And that's what I'm saying. It was like we get to the third film and it's like, oh, now Blade got a team. He need a whole team. We need Hannibal, and I forgot the other girl, Whistler's daughter, right?
Yeah,
right.
Abigail.
And look, they were so determined to put her in it. Remember, Whistler said that his whole family died, And all of a
Right.
sudden now you got a daughter. He
Hey,
had
I
It
was
don't,
afterwards
it
and
hey,
all
don't
hey,
this
last
here.
I
long.
was a
It don't.
small kid. I'm born in 1994. So whenever the third movie came out, I remember they said in the film, "Oh, Whistler had a daughter out of wedlock." My young ass Googled or looked up what is wedlock, because how does he like have kids all of
Yeah.
a sudden when he never had? Like, what are we talking about? Come on, it don't
It,
make
it,
sense.
it
Yeah.
don't make no sense because okay, not only did they ruin that, because in the comics, Blade is mostly solo. You know, sure he's been with the Midnight Suns, and he more famously for Blade fans, he's been with the Night Stalkers, which is Hannibal King, who's supposed to be a vampire, and then Frank Drake, which is a descendant of Dracula. But aside from that, Blade has always been solo, aside from maybe a Jamal Afari who trained him in London, or somebody like Whistler. He goes out and does his own thing. In fact, he's so effective that at one point they thought that the Blade character was a whole team in Marvel Comics, but it was like, no, it's just this one badass dude that's taking out all these individuals. That's why you think it's a whole team, but that's how good he is.
Right. Hey, we got Dan Wood say Ali Blade dead on arrival. There's only one blade, and there will always going to be one blade.
No,
Oh
wait.
yeah,
Now,
that
with
line
that
was funny.
said, Wesley may not want to sign up for a trilogy or something like that. So I think that they do have a proper way to bring Martial Ali into it. Still, I think that they should basically give him the Logan treatment, right? If y'all remember, at the end of the third movie, he released that shit into the atmosphere, and they didn't know if it would affect Blade. They said it may
Right.
even impact Blade. So why don't we do something where, just like how Wolverine and Logan, his healing factor was weakened. He needed that serum to really go ham and get back in his youthfulness. Why don't we have something similar where Blade
Okay,
was
so
impacted a little bit by what was released? Maybe he's still a daywalker, but he can only be in the sun for a certain amount of time. Maybe garlic and silver bullets do affect him to a certain extent. And I think that we should introduce Martial Ali in the proper way. Why don't we give them a Whistler Blade relationship? Well, how come Blade can't find Martial Ali in the alley feeding on a dog or a dead junkie, and he's gonna kill him, and then he thinks back to Whistler and how Whistler slaved him, and now that's
okay,
a proper way to introduce him
that's a
into the
lot.
fold.
That's a lot of stuff. Okay, so just to tackle that one at a time. Number one, uh, Blade is not Wolverine, so you should not give him a Wolverine treatment. That's first and foremost. Number two, when you talk about the fact that Wesley doesn't want to do it, it's based upon how they normally do their films, how they try to stretch stuff out for a 10-year period. What you have to do is film two movies back to back and let him know it will be done in a small amount of time, and then he can be done. Because if you do it the typical MCU way, he's going to be way too old by the time they try to even get to a trilogy. So it's all about timing and how you approach it. And then thirdly,
Right.
if you're talking about Mahershala Ali, and I said this like 3 years ago, which is the idea of, most humans, since they don't read comic books, they don't know about Jamal Afari, which is the jazz musician who trained Blade in the comic books. It was right after his mother got bit by Deacon Frost, and the rest of the sexual workers scared off Frost, and then Blade, as a child, he was wandering the streets trying to figure himself out. He saw a man who was getting jumped by vampires. He went over there to help him, and they took out the vampires together. And then he tells him, "Hey, I can train you and teach you how to hunt these things." So he spends years training them. And then when they get to the weapons, he notices that he's excelling with the blades. And that's how he got his nickname, Blade, because of how great he
Mm.
is with blades. So most
Mm.
humans, they don't know that. They haven't seen that. If you want to, you can have Wesley Snipes be Jamal Afari training Mahershala Ali's blade. That is the perfect way to pass the torch if that's what they want to do.
So a master
There are
sensei
narratives that can work.
relationship, just like he had with Whistler.
Correct, except that
Yeah,
Jamal
that's the
Farley
same thing I just said.
is,
Okay. And as far as your first
but
point about he
Hey,
can't get the
I want to.
Wolverine treatment because he's not Wolverine, I literally gave an example with the serum. And actually, in the second Blade film, he does drink the blood, and now he regenerates faster and gets stronger. So I'm just meaning him actually taking some damage and relying on real blood. Maybe he has a
but
little vial of
it's
blood he
still
got
too
to take
much
real
of a
quick so he can
copy.
really go
If
ham
we
because
want humans to
he is up there in
respect
Hey,
age.
Blade, But no, but
Hey,
if
I
we
want to
want
let y'all
humans to
know.
respect, okay.
I want to let y'all know I wouldn't hit on the ban Lee because the only thing he keep doing is saying the same old stuff over and over again. He's done. He's done. Yeah, come on, man. We over here trying to have a conversation, and the only thing you could do is just bash the conversation. I don't even understand it. Who would they get
It,
these type
it's
of
it,
people
it,
from?
it's silliness. Oh, but here's the thing. Again, I want humans to respect Blade and don't do nothing that reminds humans of Wolverine. Like I said, I don't like that. Blade needs to stand on his own. That stuff with the serum and everything. Number one, you need to disregard Blade Trinity because that movie was awful. So they shouldn't continue anything
But that's not
from
going to
that
be
terrible
disregarded.
movie.
They're not going to go back and retcon that unless you think they're going to retcon the whole third movie.
Okay, here's the thing though. If you look at what they did in Deadpool Wolverine, they already retconned that. There's no
They didn't
acknowledgement of
retcon it.
that
They
because
introduced
it
a
doesn't.
multiverse. That's two completely different things, and you know it.
No, no, no,
Well,
no,
I
no, no,
would
no.
say they
So
pretty much erased it. That's what they did. They erased.
yeah,
They
they
erased it.
erased it. That's how the multiverse works in the context of what they did in Deadpool and Wolverine.
But there's still a
So
Yeah, they
distinction.
instead
erased
of
A
it.
retcon has nothing to do with the multiverse. It has nothing to do with giving you a reason for why we're acting like that previous stuff didn't happen. A retcon is just a new producer, a new director, and you pretending like the other film never existed. What Marvel is now doing with the multiverse is a type of
Ryan
retcon,
Reynolds and
but it's with a
Wesley
lot more
Snipes
thought,
have
a lot
already
more effort,
stated that
a lot
that
more
movie
finesse.
didn't work, and you don't need to connect anything to something that didn't work. So by in turn, all you
And
have to
Marvel didn't
do
do that. They
is just
connected the
all you
multiverse
have
with
to do
everything
is
that didn't work. They
continue
brought
from
up
Blade 2.
Wolverine Origins, Deadpool, and everything in between. Alexa, they
Okay,
even mentioned Ben Affleck.
okay, but first off, though, when you talk about X-Men, especially in the context of the comic books, their continuity is all over the place. Blade, there's a lot more consistency with this storyline. However, it would be foolish to continue from something that was hated. You don't do that. That's not smart, especially when you look at the positive response for what happened with Blade in the context of Deadpool and Wolverine. You need to keep him on that positive stratosphere and not remind individuals like, you remember that awful storyline where he supposedly killed off the vampires? That makes no sense. You stay away from that
So,
crap.
so you saying basically do what the MCU is doing, or I would say Fox, because it's kind of like Fox moved along as if X-Men Origins Wolverine never happened, and the Wolverine
Correct.
film. It was out. It was almost like they just moved past. like 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 that.
Right.
Like
And they,
when you watch
yeah,
Logan, you have no indication that he's been to China. I'm just say Japan. You know what I'm
right.
saying? It's kind of like just act like they don't even exist. That's what you're saying, T.
Right.
Byron?
And that's the
That's
traditional
exactly what
retcon,
I'm
whereas
saying.
what they did with Deadpool is not a traditional
That's their
retcon.
way
That's
of
a multiverse
retconning.
theory. They got a name for it and everything.
That's their way of retconning. But see, the thing is that the reason why they had that scene, why Deadpool called out the fact that their multiverse stuff is trash, is because they're not using it correctly. They don't know what they're doing. But that's how you do that. You have a retcon and you use the multiverse as a reason to justify that you did that. So that way, when humans are like, well, what about this third movie? Don't worry about that. That was trash. That was a mistake. There's no reason that you should weaken Blade because in the comic books, Blade gets stronger over time, not weaker. So that makes no sense. You don't want to make him feel like a Wolverine ripoff, the whole, well, because it worked with Logan, let's just do something similar with Blade. No, don't disrespect the character like that. Let him have his own storylines. He has plenty of them.
I think there are plenty of Blade fans that do not think it's disrespectful to see Blade in a older, weaker state. I think that lends to the realism. I don't know what's going on with the comics or what translated to film, but is Blade supposed to age, or is he supposed to be an ageless vampire?
Blade ages very slowly. Now he doesn't age as slow as Wolverine, but he ages slowly. So like when humans saw that he had gray in the hair, that's appropriate. But he will still live longer than every other human that you will see because he's not
And
human. He's also
and it's
half
only
vampire.
like that, and it's only like that because he's not taking in real blood. He wouldn't
Right.
even look like that. That's the only reason why he's kind of on the aging spectrum because he's not actually drinking real blood, which goes back to what I was saying about what Drake told him. Think about it. Blade was able to stand toe to toe with him, and he's not even drinking real blood. So
Exactly.
that's
So
why he was doing saying all of that.
Right, and that's why I was telling humans,
But that's the third movie that you want to retcon and act
if
like he
you
never
don't read the
existed. So if we look at
comics,
the second movie, he had to land in a whole pool of blood just to deal with some D-level security guards, right?
no. It's not that he
No, no,
had to
no, no,
land.
no. You want to
No.
retcon
It's
the
No, he
not
second
that
needed
he
the
movie so
had
it
to
never
land.
happened.
He
In the
doesn't.
he
second
needed the
movie, did
blood
he
to
not
regenerate.
get hit up by the
He
Nazi
he
dude and
needed
have to
he
fall in
needed
a
the
pool of
blood,
blood
but he
to
doesn't
even
need a
deal with
pool.
all the rest of
That
the
was just
guards?
done for dramatic effect. Look, all
Right.
Blade needs is a couple of drops, but the pool thing was more dramatic and epic. But it doesn't take him long to regenerate. He doesn't need a whole pool. But see, this is why it's important that
Y'all need to
individuals
go to
that work
YouTube and
on
pull up
this
that
stuff,
scene on Blade
that
2. He
they
was struggling. He was on his knees. He was getting shot with a shotgun. And yes, for dramatic effect, he fell into a pool. But either way, he needed blood to even deal with that D-level Nazi and the rest of his security guards,
Right,
right?
because they had to drain him. They just like in part one, they drained Blade from his blood. That's why he had to. That's why he had to bite the girl in part one. He didn't
right,
want to
right.
bite her, but he needed to bite her to regenerate. They had already
I
drained Blade out of his blood and stuff. That's how you. That's how you weaken
This
him.
is true. Yeah, this is true. However, in actuality, he can regenerate a lot faster than that. See, when it came to Blade 1 and 2, they specifically created circumstances to make it more dramatic. Because the whole thing was because the other Marvel material was so bad, they needed to come with the writing. Because back then, when it came to comic book material, I mean, it's still the case now that most humans don't read and actually know these characters. But back then, they didn't want to take the risk of something seeming too far fetched or too goofy. So it's like you need to come up with a narrative reason to where they can accept, oh, that's how he regenerated. Oh, this is how this happened. But as we have seen with all comic book movies, they change things because that's how it is in the comics too. So with MCU, because a lot of times they're more accurate. And if you look at what happened with Deadpool and Deadpool Wolverine versus his other two movies, he's way more accurate in the recent one. You do the same thing with Blade. For you come up with a reason why he came out of the void or he was placed somewhere else, he gets a couple drops of blood, the gray hair is gone. He's stronger and he's faster and he continues to stay that way to justify you doing multiple films. And that whole thing where all or most of the vampires is killed, you get rid of that silly crap because it makes no sense.
I don't think they ever said
That's
all
like
or most
having
of the vampires are
Batman.
killed. They
That's
said
like
they released
having
the virus, and
Batman
we don't
and
know
you
what
telling the
virus
audience
is
that,
gonna be,
oh,
right?
he did away with most of the villains in Gotham. You don't do that. It makes no sense.
Okay,
But
did
that's
that
what they was
actually
going for
happen?
in
That's what I'm asking.
Witchmaker.
For KO, did that happen, or did they leave that open and ambiguous? I don't remember them saying all the vampires are dead now.
Well,
That
they were saying that
I'm asking
What,
for
the
KO
virus
with
was
all due respect.
eventually.
I haven't really
Well,
been able to hear from the brother lately.
well, well, they said that the virus was going to kill off all of the vampires eventually, which is why they was hunting that werewolves at the end.
right. And that's the thing. So because that writing was atrocious, I'm like, so what they did is they messed up the Blade character and everything around him. And then they're like, let's just come up with a way to end this. So we're just gonna have something that's gonna effectively kill all the vampires. I'm like, that makes no sense. That's one of the many reasons why that movie was awful. You
Well,
got rid of
I
you it,
I would say this though, T. This is what I would say. I wouldn't give you a Blade film and try to desperately try to like just retcon anything. I would do exactly what that of Logan did, right? Not Logan's style, but Logan just went about as if nothing happened. Like it was like, okay, the X-Men, they act like the whole X-Men films didn't even happen. You know what I
right.
mean? Like
Yeah,
it was his own
right,
thing.
right.
I would just give you a Blade film starring Wesley Snipes, and I would kind of end it on the level of he's just out there somewhere. I wouldn't even kill him off.